Week 10 is officially in the book. Week 11 is here, and we're another week closer to the fantasy playoffs. Hopefully, you guys are in win mode or are close and competing to getting into the playoffs. And if you're not, we appreciate you hanging in there, maybe still trying to compete, maybe win that toilet bowl, whatever the case may be in your league specifically. As always, we love to bring you our top 6 must start and 3 must sit running backs this week. I have the running backs this week. Guys, teams on bye this week: Jags, Dolphins, Seahawks, and Bucks. So make sure you take all those guys out of your lineup. Let's get straight to the video. My first start running back of this week is Devin Singletary versus the Cleveland Browns. The Browns currently give up the second most fantasy points to the running back position. And Singletary did his thing this past week, and that was, I think, because of the limitations of Josh Allen in the first half, and then him just going crazy in the second half. 13 carries, 47 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think that's really what it was. The 2 touchdowns that got Devin Singletary those fantasy points. Over 15.7 fantasy points for Devin Singletary. And once again, playing the Cleveland Browns, who just gave up over 119 yards to Jeff Wilson on the ground and a touchdown. Look, this is a perfect opportunity for you if you need a running back this week. I think Devin Singletary is a great start going into week 11, so start him. My second running back this week is Cordero Patterson versus the Chicago Bears. The Bears currently give up the 5th most points to the running back position. This past week, Cordero Patterson was a Thursday night game, and it wasn't the best against the Carolina Panthers. Only had 5 carries for 18 yards, just 3 fantasy points. I doubt that's going to happen again, to be completely honest. I'm really confident going with Cordero Patterson going into week 11. He is playing the Bears, who just gave up a significant amount of yards to the Lions running back. 59 yards for Jamal Williams and only 6 yards for Swifty, but obviously he was in and out of the game. So Jamal Williams, 59 yards, 16 carries, over 11 fantasy points. If Cordero Patterson can get you 11, maybe 15 fantasy points going into week 2, I think it's a good start. The one thing they even said, even during the game and at the press conference, they said we need to give Cordero Patterson the ball more, and that's exactly, in my opinion, what's going to happen, going into week 11. So start Cordero Patterson with some confidence. My third running back to start this week is Kenyon Drake versus the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers currently give the 6th most fantasy points to the running back position. And Drake's been doing his thing the past couple weeks, right? In week 8, this is all before the bye. 7 carries, 62 yards, caught 4 for 4 in the air, and a touchdown, over 16 fantasy points against New Orleans in week 9. 24 carries, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, 24 fantasy points. Kenyon Drake was the guy in the last 2 weeks. He was weeks 8 to 9. He was RB5. So look, Drake is the bell cow. Obviously, J.K. Dobbins is set to come back sometimes during the season, but you're not going to be starting him in fantasy playoffs perspective. But I do think Drake is going to be the lead back in this backfield. He is one of my trade for guys coming into this week, and he is cheap. So I think if you can get Kenyon Drake right now, coming off a bye week, playing Carolina and then Jacksonville in the next 2 weeks, it will be fantastic starts for you. So start Kenyon Drake with confidence. And my fourth start this week is Miles Sanders versus the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts currently give the 10th most fantasy points to the running back position. Miles Sanders, I'm recording this before the Monday night game, right before, so we're actually not sure what's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure he should have a good game. If anything happens, if he does get injured, obviously disregard this, but Miles Sanders in the past 2 weeks has been doing good, scored a touchdown in his last 3 games, right? Against Houston, 17 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown, over 15 fantasy points in week 9. I'm pretty sure he should have a good game here in week 10 against the Washington Commanders. So to keep that in mind, I think Miles Sanders is going to be a great start going into week 11. The Indianapolis Colts gave up 22 fantasy points to Josh Jacobs, had 21 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Caught 6 for 8 in the air for 28 yards. If Miles Sanders can somehow put up those type of numbers, he will be a great start going into week 11. My 5th starting running back this week is Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson playing the Houston Texans. The Texans currently give up the most fantasy points to the running back position. And why I say either, I think it can go either way. Obviously, Gibson has been the more consistent running back in the air specifically. He's been getting the targets when this team has been down, and Brian Robinson has been non-existent. But somehow, some way, if this team can get the lead and they start finding a rhythm with Brian Robinson, once again, who are playing the Houston Texans, who give up the most fantasy points to the running back position, maybe Brian Robinson could be a good start. Mind you, that is a risky play. Antonio Gibson feels like the more safer play going into this week, but at the same time still has a risk, right? The Houston Texans give up the most fantasy points to the running back position, who just gave up 150 plus yards to Saquon Barkley, 35 touches on the ground. Obviously, it is Saquon Barkley. The gap and skill difference is completely different, but I will be starting Antonio Gibson or Brian Robinson with confidence going into week 11. And my last start this week to the other side of the ball now. Let's go to Dameon Pierce, who's playing the Washington Commanders, not football team, the Washington Commanders, who are actually pretty good against the run, 13 fewest fantasy points to the running back position. But Dameon Pierce has been the bell cow, the workhorse for this team, a guy that can consistently get you 12, maybe 15 on a good day. He can get you even 18, 20 plus points. I think Dameon Pierce is a great start going into this week. He did play the New York Giants this past week, who are a top 5 defense against the run, but they did give up 94 yards to Dameon Pierce, 17 carries. He did catch 2 out of 3 targets in the air, had over 12 fantasy points. I think the same can be done with the Washington against the Washington Commanders at a higher level as well. So I will be starting Dameon Pierce with some confidence going into week 11. We bring you our starts of the week every week, but we have to bring you our sits of this week, and we have 3. And my first running back this week is A.J. Dillon versus the Tennessee Titans. The Titans currently give up the 4th fewest points to the running back position. And A.J. Dillon has been non-existent. Since week 1, he hasn't scored double-digit fantasy points, right? Week 1 was the only time he scored over 20 points. Since then, 7, 5, 9, 3, 9, 1. You get the point. A.J. Dillon has been non-existent. You shouldn't be starting him in any formats, in my opinion, unless Aaron Jones goes out, which we all thought was going to be the case in week 10, but that wasn't the case. He is back and healthy. So sit A.J. Dillon going into week 11. My second sit running back this week is Najee Harris versus the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals currently give up the 8th fewest points to the running back position. Najee has been up and down, has been the guy. He just hasn't been there, and I don't know when we'll be able to start him. Maybe next year, it feels like, when he gets a better offensive line. But this past week, 20 carries, just under 100 yards, 8.9 fantasy points. He still hasn't given you that high upside where you draft him, whether it's in the second, maybe even the first round, depending on your leagues. So sit Najee Harris going into week 11. And my third sit of this week is D'Onta Foreman versus the Baltimore Ravens. I love everything that D'Onta Foreman has done so far, but I think this is the real test. He's going to a real team. It feels like a team that is competing, has a really good run defense. Currently, the Ravens give the 16 least fantasy points to the running back position. I can't start D'Onta Foreman with confidence at all going into this week. I think it's going to get harder and harder, especially with Baker Mayfield going on the center and PJ Walker, out for a couple weeks. Baker Mayfield is not going to be able to put this team in a winning position, which means they have to throw the ball more, unfortunately, and they're going to have to abandon the run. I just don't see how D'Onta Foreman could fit into this offense with Baker Mayfield anymore. Obviously, things can change if PJ Walker does come back, but it is a tough matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. I see the Ravens taking this game away, and then, them having to result in throwing the ball. So I will be sitting D'Onta Foreman going into week 11. Guys, that's my start sits. Hopefully you have a good week going into week 11. Hopefully you're still in contention to go into the playoffs. Once again, a reminder, Jags, Dolphins, Seahawks, Bucks, all on a bye week. And we go live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday to answer all of your Star Sit questions. So we'll see you then, and good luck in week 11.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.